Committee of the Whole, please come to order. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 73. Reading clerk, please read the bill.
House Bill 73, sponsored by Representative Larson Lloyd. Recreation Safety, Rock Climbing. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources, to whom is referred House Bill 73. Recreation Safety, Rock Climbing. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Byron, Campbell, Connolly, Jarvis, Provenza, Storer, Thayer, Wharf. Excused, Representative Harshman. Representative Byron, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Byron? As soon as you find a microphone.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill number 73 do pass. And to present the House Bill 73 is my good friend from over the mountains that are windy.
Representative Larson Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Folks, this bill goes into two of our statutes in Title I and in Title 34, where we talk about two issues. One is the responsibility of an individual who participates in a sport that has some, I'm trying to remember the word, some inherent risk. So if I'm going to ride a bull, there's some inherent risks that come with that. If I'm going to ride a motorcycle, there's some inherent risks that come when I buy that motorcycle in doing that. In another part of the statute, it talks about in the liability of owners and land used for recreation purposes, it protects landowners who provide people the opportunity to come on their land and recreate without having liability from injury. So if you decide to go horseback riding on someone's land, they allow you to go on and you get pitched because there's something that scared your horse, that the landowner isn't liability. We understand these inherent risks. One of my former constituents now owns property up in the canyon that goes between, in the Wind River Canyon. And there are people who approach him and would like to access his property to climb rocks, which has become a very popular sport. He's concerned about liability issues. If I do this, am I going to be responsible? Well, in both of these acts, we try to identify a few of the many sports out there that have inherent risks. And in Title I, we actually list out mountain climbing, which used to kind of cover rock climbing. But as that has evolved, it's kind of a different beast. And so these folks that do a lot of rock climbing have reached out and says, could we include rock climbing in the statute so that when we approach landowners and seek permission, they're a little hesitant, we can provide that indeed, even though it may be implied, having it in statute helps. I don't know, some of you who have a little gray hair, when I moved to my community in 1980, on Saturday, I would get up, grab my bag, as I was telling the committee yesterday, throw my shoes and my basketball in, and we'd go down to the gym. In my community now, if you look on Saturday morning, people are coming out of their houses with their bag, their climbing ropes, and their climbing shoes. There's just that sport has just really evolved, and I think it's evolved statewide, and trying to find access and to work with landowners to be able to participate in these opportunities to climb is what's behind this bill. And so in each one of those, in the types of sports identified, we insert rock climbing. And so with that, Mr. Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chairman Washut.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any huge heartburn with this, but it does seem that both in the original piece of the bill and then in Title 34, we have language that suggests that this is not an all-inclusive list, right? It says sporting activities including and similar recreational opportunities and includes but is not limited to. And so it seems to me that that verbiage gets diluted if we actually try to create an exhaustive list of all the sports and recreational activities that we want to have protected. So just your comments, you know, that's my concern, is that if you go into court with a liability case and you have an athletic event that's not in the list and you want to say, hey, this is covered, we do have, it's one of these other recreational activities, it included but not limited to language and so forth. So that's my concern. Just let the bringer of the bill speak to it.
Representative Larson.
It's a fair and valid observation to the chairman of judiciary, and I wouldn't argue about your interpretation of all inclusive. I don't think it. I would also push back and say I don't think that it dilutes what is said there, but what obviously we've tried to do historically is highlight those sports that have perhaps a higher acuity of risk to, and those that approached me on this said, you go to a landowner and you say, yeah, but right here in 34 it says it includes. They have more comfort in knowing that it's right there in black and white, and that's the intent of the bill.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to the chair of Committee 1, the committee did discuss that, and basically what we came up with was we need to put this into law now. Let's work on this to give that onus, but let's also look towards maybe a more comprehensive fix of that law so that we can address what your concerns were. So valid concerns, want to move forward on fixing that as well.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion. Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Byron's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that House Bill 73 do pass, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill 73 is passed committee of the whole. Committee, just a quick brief word. That was a fairly quick bill. I appreciate the movement on that. I was informed that we will not be leaving in this beautiful weather behind me until the next 3 bills are done. So we will clean up the committee of the whole list tonight. So depending upon how long it takes us to get out of here, just want to let you all know that. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 45. Reading clerk, please read the bill.
House Bill 45, sponsored by Representative Byron, removing otters as protected animals. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources, to whom is referred House Bill 45, removing otters as protected animals, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Byron, Campbell, Connolly, Jarvis, Thayer, Wharf. Noes, Representatives Provenza, Storer. Excused, Representative Harshman. Representative Byron, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Byron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 45 do pass. And Chairman, I yield the floor to myself to present the bill.
So approved.
Members, this bill, I think it's the shortest one I've seen in my short career, but if you have it pulled up in front of you, if you go to page 1, line 14, you see a strike through on the word otter. It's the entirety of the bill. So what this bill does, and what we heard in committee and what we discussed, was it simply removes the otter, which is a protected, one of the current protected animals in the state of Wyoming, not federally, but in the state of Wyoming, out of that statute. In doing so, it becomes what we call a non-game wildlife. And in that, it goes to Chapter 52 in Game and Fish Regs, and that affords the otter protection. So some of the discussion was this bill gets passed, we get to July and it gets enacted, and then it's a free-for-all on otters. That is not the case. It goes into a specific category in game and fish. They then can control the animal. They can regulate it as they see fit. And in testimony, the goal would be to limit some of the conflict that folks have had with otters. Previously, you had an issue with an otter, you called your local game warden, nothing could happen. They didn't want to touch it, it's on the protected species list. This would allow them to potentially move the otter, relocate the otter, or deal with the water as they see fit. That's the entirety of the bill. Happy to stand and take questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looked like people were waiting for me to talk first today. So I was one of the no votes in committee. I just want to explain why. At heart, I'm a data scientist. I've PhD. I think data is important. And during committee, we heard from the department that oversees our wildlife, and they didn't have direct data. They had what we call passive data on otters, and they weren't really able to tell us exactly where they are, in part because it's just not something that they are doing right now, but they do provide grants to scientists. One of those scientists, who's a leading expert in the world on river otters, came to the committee. And so they have direct evidence of how are the otters doing, what are their populations, where in the state of Wyoming do we see them. And broadly speaking, what that scientist said is that we probably shouldn't be doing this yet. That the population of otters has stayed stable and is not necessarily doing great. They're in the greater ecosystem in the northwest section of our state because the area is good for them. And in looking at areas where they've done research in other states where they look at the impact of trapping on otter populations and have found that it has been detrimental. And while the department that oversees our wildlife will make determinations on whether that can happen or not, their recommendation as the leading expert on this was that we continue to kind of stay away from this and not try to oversee conflict. And part of that conversation was about, where do we take the otter? Is it going to survive there? And are we going to hurt the populations that we have? Are we going to hurt the genetic diversity? So there were a lot of nuanced conversations about the data science. You know, I respect the agency that oversees our wildlife, but they didn't bring this bill to us. They didn't ask for this. They weren't saying that we have a problem. You know, I have a lot of respect for the chairman, the bringer of the bill. And in committee, talked about one of the impetuses of bringing this was he was fishing and saw an otter eating a fish. And, you know, I think that I understand the competition with otters on fishing, but, you know, I don't know that that's how we should be bringing this type of legislation. I'd like to have seen it brought by the Game and Fish Department rather than just maybe supported by, the department that oversees our wildlife. And if the number one scientist that knows what is going on says no, then I would also urge you to vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a co-sponsor on this bill, this came directly from my constituents in my district. Those constituents are landowners, fishermen, and the general public. I also spoke with the regional supervisor with the Game and Fish Department about this bill, and he was in full support of this bill. What they run into is they have a lot of otter complaints from fishermen and private landowners, especially ones that have private fish ponds, that the otters are decimating their fish. Of course, the fishermen, as my colleague mentioned, they do compete heavily with their fly fishing community in our area. And the landowners, you know, have, I don't want to discount the value of a landowner and the general public, the fly fishing community, when it comes to these river otters. This animal has been protected since 1953. That's over 70 years ago. 10 years ago, we had no discussion about river otters. 5 years ago, possibly a mention or two. The last couple, there's been a lot of talk about river otters being seen, being in these private fish ponds. So I personally put a lot of value in what our landowners say and what our fishermen say, because they're on the landscape every day. We have experts out there that are there periodically, they do their work, but they're not on the landscape every day like our landowners and fishing community is. So I put a lot of value in that. And they are the ones bringing this information, that these river otters need to be looked at. And all this bill does is to give the game and fish the opportunity to be able to do something with these creatures. As it stands now, they have no ability to do anything with them. If they're brought one in from a beaver trapper that's caught, by accident, there's nothing they can do. If they have a complaint from a landowner that has a problem in their private fish ponds, there's nothing they can do. They can't give them any permit to take them. They can't even trap them themselves and relocate them. So all this bill does, again, is give the game and fish the ability to address the situation and begin to research more on the river otter issue in our state. Last comment I'd like to make is these river otters, they're basically all on private land. All of the rivers and creeks in my district are all privately owned. And those are the people that are seeing them, and those are the people that are talking about them. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Representative Wiley.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And I'd like to direct my question to the other Mr. Chairman from the land of the Pointy Hills and plenty of issues that we get to debate on this floor. I'm sure that this was just more than a fishing trip and seeing an otter after another otter eating a couple of fish. Could you expand our background a little bit in the history on why they were removed, or why they were protected in the 50s, and the reasoning behind that, and how the population has sustained and recovered to this point, and the reasoning that we think and believe they're stable enough to be removed? Thank you.
And just for the body's consideration as well, make sure that we are not referring to state agencies by the name. That is just part of our rules of decorum. So Gills and Guts works, anything along those lines, but the group that oversees our fish and wildlife, that would work, but by calling them game and fish is not allowed on the House floor just by rules. So with that, Representative Worf, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for helping us remember. Sometimes we get a little old and forget. I would urge the body to support this. I know when the committee heard the bill, there was a lot of, I think, misunderstanding and confusion. I wanted to make it very clear, with protected status, this has nothing to do with endangered species list like the federal government. This was in answer to the question. They were almost extirpated, and it was our state agency that takes care of our animals that we hunt and fish. They were the ones that put the protection on them. And they also came, and it is correct that they didn't request this bill, but they did acknowledge that they can't move forward. We're having a problem with conflicts, that they're limited in how they can address those conflicts. And one thing that became apparent, they've kind of stagnated. There's areas that the expert that was referred to, she mentioned that we have prime river otter habitat that remains devoid of their presence. She had some opinions as to why she thought that may be the case, but in all actuality, the agency that takes care of these animals we hunt and fish, their hands are tied right now under the designation as protected. And all we're doing is we're changing the designation. They're still protected,
You can't trap them, you can't shoot them, you can't do anything willy-nilly. Everything is still under the control and authority of them. They still retain that. They haven't yielded anything. It just frees them up to where they can look at other things. It can increase their ability to do research and gather information about these animals. I think we all want them to succeed, but that's what this is for. And I just want the body to understand that this is not a carte blanche, slaughter of these animals. They're still protected. This just enables them to do what we need to do. Thank you.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this bill also for similar reason to what we just heard. Anytime we can take management authority away from federal agency and give it to a state agency, I think it's good for Wyoming, good for us. I encourage your yes vote.
Care to bring us home, Representative Chairman Byron?
Thank you, Chairman. Folks, we heard some great testimony. I want to answer a few questions. One specifically from my friend from over the mountain. Maybe I do need to get better at fishing. Two, from my neighbor in southwest Wyoming. I believe your other neighbor in southwest Wyoming answered those questions. So with that, I urge an aye vote.
Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Byron's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that House Bill 73 do pass. I'm sorry. We are on House Bill 45. I ought to read this a little better. All those in favor, House Bill 45, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? House Bill 45 has passed committee of the whole. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 91. Reading clerk, please read the bill.
House Bill 91, sponsored by Agriculture, Eminent Domain, Energy Collector Systems Amendments. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 5, Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources, to whom is referred House Bill 91, Eminent Domain, Energy Collector Systems Amendments, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Banks, Johnson, Ottman, Schmid, Strzok, Winter. Noes, Representatives Davis, Eklund, Provenza. Representative Winter, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Winter?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that bill number 91 do pass. And I will ask that Representative Schmid explain the bill.
All right, again, for the body, make sure that we're not referring to individuals by name. It's the good representative from the southwest part of the state, Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do my best. Rookie mistake. So yes, I was an aye vote on this in our committee the other day. To me, this bill is pretty simple. It's all about private property rights by eliminating the heavy hand and the threat of eminent domain. And what I mean by that is, if I can give you an example, if there's multiple landowners that a private company would like to cross for an easement or a right-of-way, one of those landowners may choose to say no. And if eminent domain takes place, that landowner, yes, he may get paid, he may get some compensation, but he basically loses the right to his land, the management of his land, and possibly future value of his land as a whole because of that right-of-way. He then also has to forever deal with the activities of that private company that was handed that eminent domain claim. So I think these negotiations on these types of things need to remain between private property owners and private companies without the threat and the heavy hand of an eminent domain possibility. I'd like to also remind the body that this bill supports the fifth plank of our Republican Party platform,
Yep. We do not refer to Republican, Democrat, anything like that.
Okay,
Uh,
sorry.
That's okay.
Can I quote the plank?
You can summarize the plank, but reading directly from something is not allowed either.
Okay.
Go ahead, Representative Schmidt.
Okay, thank you. The plank basically supports the protection of private property from eminent domain, period. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was a no vote on this because I believe down there that we're getting too tight on our description here. You know, if we're going to restrict the conductor infrastructure, does that include the natural gas, electrical operations? Does that include some, say, crypto mining? Does that include, recently we've seen up there on the sovereign nation, an irrigation district brought a new water system back in, an antiquated one, and they brought it back online. Does that preclude all these others? That's my problem with this bill, is that I think the intent of it is to address a couple of industries, but I think it has a far broader with the way the bill is written, right, as I see it.
Representative Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd probably be in favor of this bill, but I wonder if at some point a company may challenge this to be unconstitutional when you look at Article 10, Section 9 under eminent domain, and that's, thank you.
Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also was a no vote in committee, and one of the things that came up was there was other legislation that was talked about in the interim that was supported by our association that oversees growing our stock. And that association is against this piece of legislation. They thought that there was better legislation written that we then put away, so that involved voluntary agreements with 85% of the landowners. The concern that we had in Albany County, or the county that I'm from, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, essentially, if you have one landowner, one that is wealthy, which is happening more often in our state, maybe they don't need the money, but you've got fifth generation ranchers in the state who are looking for ways to keep their ranches intact. And they do so by finding other revenue streams, maybe through something that would be incorporated through energy sectors. If the one landowner who's got all the money in the world doesn't care about money, but wants to have a private playground, gets in the way of the rest of the landowners, then you're infringing on the rights of the 95% of the landowners that want to be able to keep their land intact and have it, instead of having to sell it off into smaller parcels. So really, when the association that oversees our stock growing came forward and said that they were against this bill, that really kind of solidified for me that we need to take another stab at this and maybe revisit the bill that was discussed during the interim that allows for more of the landowners to come together and say, this is what we want. So just fruit for thought, body. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Winter's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that House Bill 91 do pass, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All of the opposed, no? No. House Bill 91 has passed committee of the whole. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 118. Reading clerk, please read the bill.
House Bill 118, sponsored by Representative Banks. Limitations on net land gains for the federal government. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 5, Agriculture, State, and Public Lands and Water Resources, to whom is referred House Bill 118, Limitations on Net Land Gains for the Federal Government, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Banks, Davis, Eklund, Johnson, Ottman, Schmid, Strzok, Winter. No, Representative Provenza. Representative Winter, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Winter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that Bill number 118 do pass. And I turn the explanation over to Representative Banks.
All right, let's go ahead and try that one more time, Mr. Chairman. That's a representative from the northern part of the state. Try to really refrain from using individuals' names on the floor, please. Representative Banks.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I bring before the body at this time House Bill 118 and ask for the favorable consideration of this body. I think one of the most important things that we can come away with as the 68th legislature is the ability to keep Wyoming lands in Wyoming hands. And this is a bill that attempts to do just that. You know, for the past 4 years, we've seen a war declared on our public lands in the state of Wyoming. Oil, gas, coal, recreation, even public access has been threatened. And I believe it's not in the best interest of Wyoming to hand more land over to the federal government that would be subject to such things that we rely on for our very livelihood. There's been 2 RMPs around the state that limit access, limit energy development, limit grazing, limit things that really are important to the state of Wyoming. And what this bill addresses is that no more land is going to be subject under those kinds of considerations, because we're going to try and rein back in the net gains of the federal government upon our property. This bill provides guidance to the board that manages those land decisions, and which consists of our top 5 elected officials, a few of which support this guideline that would attempt to bring consistency to the office that oversees land and the commission that oversees land, and their fiduciary responsibility to do so. Wyoming always does it better, and I believe in that case, the case of this bill, we have the opportunity to do it better. And ask for your favorable consideration of a bill that would keep Wyoming lands in Wyoming hands. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further conversation? Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I'd like to point out in this bill is that Title 34 is referenced, and it was told to us in committee that this bill was to regulate how the state determines how it sells land, that we can't give state lands to our higher government. But Title 34 is not limited to state lands. Title 34 has to do with private property. So this bill, as currently written, infringes on private property rights and determination as to who someone wants to sell their land to. So as currently written, you're telling landowners that who they can and cannot sell their land to if they choose to. That is a constitutional violation. Title 5 of the United States Constitution says that you can't infringe on who people want to sell their land to. So that is a consideration. If you are willing to infringe on private property rights, then an individual landowner's decisions on what they want to do with their land, then you might be okay with that. I may be bringing a second reading amendment to remove that portion so that this only determines state lands. But you should question on how far do you want to go on infringing potentially those private property rights?
Vice Chairman Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I knew that argument was going to come up. I would counter with another argument that the federal government has far outreached its authority to own land in these United States, and at some point we have to start pushing back.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Waiting question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Winter's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with the recommendation that House Bill 118 do pass, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. No. House Bill 118 is passed the Committee of the Whole. Majority Floor Leader Heiner.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Not so enthusiastic there. All those opposed, say no. No! That motion passes.
Mr. Reader, I'm trying to figure out here now. I'm thinking, well, I just got to read the script. I mean, you got to see. I did this yesterday. Yeah. Okay. Reading clerk, please. I can't even think. I've drawn a complete blank here all of a sudden. I've been on bills in there this whole time trying to get them organized. Reading clerk, will you please read the committee report, the Committee of the Whole report? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole, having had under consideration bills on general file, begs leave to report as follows. House Bill 11, do pass amended. House Bill 73, do pass. House Bill 45, do pass. House Bill 91, do pass. House Bill 118, do pass. Representative Brown, Landon, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion carries. Congratulations, Representative Brown. Next order of business, messages from the Senate.
Message 100. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading by the vote indicated. Senate File 13, Reading Assessment and Intervention Amendments. Ayes 30, excused 1. Message 101. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading by the vote indicated. Senate File 15, Oil and Gas Conservation Commission Regulation of Pits. Ayes 23, noes 7, excused 1. Message 102. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading in an amended form by the vote indicated. Senate File 16, Industrial Siting, Tribal Notification. Ayes 17, noes 13, excused 1. Message 103. Mr. Speaker, the bill listed below passed the Senate on third reading by the vote indicated. Senate File 52, Insurance Amendments. Ayes 29, noes 1, excused 1. Sincerely, Ellen Thompson, Senate Chief Clerk.
Thank you. Reports from our standing committees?
House Bill 18, sponsored by Education, Career Technical Education Funding. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 4, Education, to whom is referred House Bill 18, Career Technical Education Funding, respectfully reports same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Andrew, Bratton, Erickson, Gugamas, Kelly, Lawley, Strzok, Williams. Excused, Representative Singh. Representative Andrew, Chairman. House Bill 33, sponsored by Transportation. Vehicle Sales and Use Tax Distribution Highway Fund. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs, to whom is referred House Bill 33, Vehicle Sales and Use Tax Distribution Highway Fund, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Banks, Brown, Geringer, Larson, McCann, Nicholas, Posey, Tarver, Wiley. Representative Brown, Chairman. This bill was re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 33, Vehicle Sales and Use Tax Distribution Highway Fund, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Alaman, Angelos, Bear, Haroldson, Pendergraft, Sherwood, Smith. Representative Bear, Chairman. House Bill 46, sponsored by Representative Strzok, Homeschool Freedom Act. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 4, Education, to whom is referred House Bill 46, Homeschool Freedom Act, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Andrew, Bratton, Ugamas, Kelly, Lawley, Singh, Strzok, Williams. Noes, Representative Erickson. Representative Andrew, Chairman. House Bill 47, sponsored by Blockchain. Secretary of State, expedited filings. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 9, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, to whom is referred House Bill 47, Secretary of State, expedited filings, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass with the following amendments. Ayes, Representatives Campbell, Heiner, Knapp, Larson, Lawley, Riggins, Schmid, Tarver, Weber. Representative Heiner, Chairman. This bill was re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom is referred House Bill 47, Secretary of State, expedited filings, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Alaman, Angelos, Bear, Haroldson, Pendergraft, Sherwood, Smith. Representative Bear, Chairman. House Bill 121, sponsored by Representative Singh, Hospital Pricing Transparency. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 10, Labor, Health, and Social Services, to whom is referred House Bill 121, Hospital Pricing Transparency, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Klauston, Gugamas, Heft, McCann, Ottman, Rodriguez-Williams, Yin. Excused, Representatives Stivar, Wassenberger. Representative Rodriguez-Williams, Chairman. House Bill 129, sponsored by Representative Larson, JT. School finance dates for fund transfers. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 4, Education, to whom is referred House Bill 129, school finance dates for fund transfers, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Andrew, Bratton, Erickson, Gugamas, Kelly, Lawley, Singh, Strzok, Williams. Representative Andrew, Chairman.
Thank you. We do have one re-referral. Chairman Andrew. If you want to take care of that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 18 be re-referred to Committee Number 1, Appropriations. Committee Number 2, Appropriations.
There you go. Thank you, Representative. HB 18 to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. All right, that clears the deck except for some announcements. Do we have a motion from the Majority Floor Leader? Then we'll do our committee announcements and then a couple other announcements and get you folks on the way.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority
I move that we adjourn until Monday, January 20th, 2025 at 10 a.m. And hopefully the roads are good enough we can get everybody back together again by then.
Excuse me? Not quite yet. What if? You've heard the motion of the majority floor leader. What is the favor of the body? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 10 o'clock Monday morning. Be back here at the chamber. Now we move on to our committee announcements. Representative Washut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 1 will meet at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, January 20th in E001, the Platte River Room. We will work the repeal of gun-free zones bill, House Bill 172. Public testimony has ended, but the committee will work the bill on Monday morning. Then we'll take up House Bill 50 and House Bill 51.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appropriations, number 2, Chairman Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 2, Appropriations, will be meeting at 8 a.m. Monday morning with our colleagues from across the building to discuss the supplemental budget. We will be doing markup. We also will be meeting at noon as a House Appropriations Committee to work on the state-funded capital construction bill, as well as the supplemental K-12 school facilities appropriation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Bear. Chairman Andrew, Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 4, Education, will meet on Monday, January 20th upon noon recess in Capitol Extension Room number 3 to hear 3 bills. House Bill 94, Charter School Authorization Amendments, House Bill 20, K-12 School Facility Leasing, and House Bill 36, Hathaway Scholarship Amendments.
Thank you, Chairman Andrew. Representative Locke, Chairman of Revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is just a reminder to the Revenue Committee. We will be meeting upon adjournment down in room 5 downstairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Rodriguez-Williams, Labor Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 10 will meet Monday morning, January 20th at 8 a.m. in room 3. We will be listening to 2 bills. House Bill 96, prohibiting mask, vaccine, and testing discrimination, and House Bill 137, direct blood donations.
Thank you, Chairman. Committee number 9, Chairman Heiner, Minerals.
Mr. Speaker, your committee number 9, Minerals, will be meeting on Monday morning at 7:30 in extension room number 5. We're going to take up House Bill 75 first, and then we'll finish House Bill 80. We've already had public comment on that one, and we'll finish that up. And then, if time allows, we'll get to House Bill 41.
Thank you, Chairman Heiner. Chairman Knapp, Corporations.
Mr. Speaker, your committee number 7, Corporations, will meet Monday in E005 at noon recess to further discuss House Bill 69 and House Bill 22.
Thank you, Chairman Knapp. Are there any other announcements from committees? Transportation, Chairman Brown.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, just a privilege of the floor if I may.
Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Pokes are playing tomorrow at UW with the border war. So if we can just keep those guys going, we want to beat the sheep, right? We fund those guys. We want to make sure that we take the sheep down. And I have a buddy of mine that's a little sheepy down in Colorado, and he told me that they were going to wallop all over our Cowboys. And so now I have a vested interest in making sure that those Pokes do this. But let's say, go Pokes, Powder River.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. A few other announcements for all of you before we dismiss out of the chamber. You got to remember we have our joint rules upon adjournment in the Supreme Court room. That's where we have our rule committee meeting with the senators and ourselves to go over our joint rules. Another thing, you can see these rules on the website. If you go to to look at them you can review them. It's on the website. Go to the bottom where it says session information under the legislation, and then on the right tab it says rules and legislative procedures. And so you can bring up those rules. You can look them over. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or want to bring amendments yourself when we decide these on Monday, I would please encourage you to do so. Well, without any other further business to be conducted before this chamber, we are adjourned until Monday morning at 10 a.m. Everyone be safe.
Members, before you all disperse, I just want to give you a cow list for Monday morning. We're going to start off with 18, then 47, and this will be on the webpage shortly, but 18, 47, 46, 121, 33, and 129. So we got 6 bills in the hopper.
And one other thing I would share with you all as your speaker, just to give you a brief heads up, believe it or not, I received 3 Senate files today. So just to give you an idea of how things are moving along west of here, that should be a challenge to us to continue to keep and diligently move ahead. So I just got 3 Senate files in my office from the work that's already been done. So just a little heads up. And another announcement, please pay for your lunch. For those of you that are still waiting to do that, it would be nice to get that taken care of. So thank you.